Alright everyone, say it with me one last time now. US Route 19. Yeah! Hello everyone, I am Portamon Sports 37, and today we are doing the last video of my whole entire US 19 series. I mean, the actual, final video I will make, just in general, because technically we did have the Northbound finale, but today we are doing a supercut of the whole entire Northbound route from just north of Bradenton, Florida, all the way up to Erie. So let's take a look at the map for the very final time. As we can see, US Route 19 goes up from Florida into Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia on its way up to Erie, where it ends at a junction with US 20. If you like this content, please be sure to leave a like on the video. If you have any feedback for me, or if you want to discuss this route any further, please leave a comment down below. And if you really enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell. So, with all of that said, let us now take our final look at US Route 19 as we make our trip on its entire northbound journey. It's going to be quite a wild ride, so buckle up, grab some popcorn and a drink, and let's get this show on the road. And we begin here again, of course, at this junction with US 41. And on these overhead signs, we can see that US 41 is signed north for Port Manatee and Tampa. I think you could probably just have Tampa on there. But we are getting signed to Interstate 275, Sunshine Skyway, and St. Petersburg. So, interesting. They're telling us the name of the road, but they're also giving us a sensible control city to start with, because St. Petersburg is, well, one of the biggest things that US 19 passes through on its whole route, and it's right at the beginning of Northbound. Before we even really finish merging onto US 19 Northbound, we get our first mileage sign right away, and it is a 3-line one, and it has St. Petersburg on the top line at 19 miles away. Clearwater is our secondary at 34 miles away, and we get Perry on the bottom line at 214 miles away. And I really don't think that is necessary at all. Perry is a pretty small town. Yeah, there's like a couple of junctions there, but I really don't think it is necessary to sign from 214 miles away, especially on a bottom line. I think you could just do St. Petersburg and Clearwater, just have the two of those. Those would do the job just fine. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind seeing a 1-line mileage sign with St. Petersburg just by itself at 19 miles away, and then if you want to do a 3-line mileage sign, well, I'll get into it a bit later. I think we merge in with Interstate 275, and I didn't want to mention this fact in Southbound Part 2 because I just wanted it to be happy vibes, because we're finally ending Southbound US 19 after 2 videos and a whole lot of time. But as far as I could tell, from the junction where 275 begins with Interstate 75, and at least as far north as St. Petersburg, I'm not sure where the range actually ends, but Interstate 275 is tolled, and here we are getting informed informed that we're going to have a toll plaza in half a mile. And here we are on our concurrency with Interstate 275 as we come into the St. Petersburg city limits going northbound. Although an interesting thing about St. Petersburg city limits is that they stretch pretty far. And at this point, we're still quite a ways south of downtown. And now we split off from Interstate 275 as it gets signed for Tampa. And we can see that we are going to be signed Pinellas Bayway. And we also get Florida 682 thrown up on that overhead. And it is getting signed for St. Pete Beach. So we are getting the Kentucky treatment, which is basically we're just getting to sign the name of the road, and that is something that Kentucky likes to do a lot with their roads, hence the term the Kentucky treatment. So that is not great. I think Clearwater should probably be on that sign for our control city. Although US 19 becomes a frontage road north of St. Petersburg, and there aren't really any pull-throughs. Most of the overhead signs are just lists of exits coming up. So I had to get off of 19 and find this overhead sign, and Clearwater is in fact our northbound control city. Also, take a gander at this sign with the weird, I think that's Helvetica font, so that is really weird. And again, here's where we can see that that frontage road begins. So, yeah. Here is our next mileage sign going northbound, and we can see that we are now signed for Turpin Springs, Newport Richey, and Spring Hill is now our primary bottom line at 30 miles away. And I think that makes sense. That is really the northern extent of the Tampa, St. Petersburg, whatever metro area. Here in Newport Richey, I found these interesting signs telling you which lane you want to be in to go on different directions of US 19. So I've never seen anything like this. That's interesting. Here is another mileage sign with regular Port Richey on the top line at 2 miles away, Hudson on the second line at 8 miles away, and Spring Hill continues to be our bottom line at 19 miles away. And here we are meeting Florida Route 50, and is getting signed east for Brooksville and Orlando. That is pretty cool to see Orlando on there. Could probably just have that. And then here is another mileage sign with some place I'm not even going to try to pronounce on the top line, and Crystal River 27 miles away on the bottom line. I guess that kind of makes sense. It's not really a big town by any means, but there's really not a lot in like central and northern Florida, in between Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Tallahassee. Here is a sign that I just thought was pretty crazy to see. When I think of Florida, I don't think of bears, and apparently we have a bear habitat for the next 12 miles, so be careful if you're driving on this road. Watch out for bears, I guess. Here we are meeting US 98 once again, and we get that awesome name of Chassahowitzka at the left turn, and US 98 going the other way is signed for Brooksville, which I think makes a lot more sense in this direction. If you were going to Lakeland, you would have had other options to go there, so again, doesn't really make so much sense to sign in this direction. And then on the other side of that intersection, we get another mileage sign with that one place I didn't try to pronounce, still on the top line, 6 miles away, And now there are 3 lines actually. Crystal River is our second line at 13 miles away. And now we get Inglis on our bottom line at 24 miles away. And I do not think that should be a bottom line at all, because further north we will have routes that can take you over to Gainesville, which is way bigger than anything else that we meet on US 19 for quite a long time. So I think that should be prioritized over other smaller towns. And really the only thing I could see that they're signing English because of is this Florida 40, which apparently isn't even like an actual state route when it meets 19 and 98. But you can see if you stay on county Florida route, Florida whatever, then it will take you over to Florida 40. I don't know. I still think English should not be on the bottom line. But then here is another mileage sign in Inglis, as we get Otter Creek 23 miles away on the top line. Chiefland is our secondary at 35 miles away. And Perry comes back onto the bottom line at 104 miles away, which I guess that's better than signing it from 214 miles away. But I think this should be Tallahassee instead, because you're kind of angling that way. In fact, I'd say it makes even more sense going this direction, because you meet up with US 27, which is the first route that'll take you there. And then there's obviously Interstate 10 and a couple other routes. In Chiefland, we're meeting up with alternate US 27 once again, although it doesn't get any control cities in this direction. Probably because, I guess, if you wanted to go to Ocala, you would have had other options to get there. And here we are meeting US 129, and it is getting signed for Trenton, Florida, Gainesville, and Live Oak. I think Gainesville will probably just do the job there. And also, this is another argument for why English should not have been on that sign, although maybe we would have had another way to get to Gainesville for this. But I mean, Gainesville is a pretty big city. The Dirtpog may not like that explanation, but Here are our reassurance shields for alternate US 27, 19, and 98 on this concurrency. Then we get another mileage sign with Perry as our bottom line, now only 67 miles away. And then Perry continues to hold up as we get closer, and Tallahassee becomes even more bottom line worthy. Here we are meeting the beginning of US 221, and we are going to be following Truck 221. This is where US 98 splits off, and we meet regular US 27, southbound US 27. You can make a right turn to get on it. And we can also see in the distance this North 221 shield, when I'm pretty sure US 221 isn't actually concurrent with us here, so I don't know why that shield is there. And then here's our next mileage sign. Interstate 10 is our top line at 33 miles away. Pretty interesting that they have a junction listed. And then Monticello, Florida is our secondary at 39 miles away. And we get Tallahassee on the bottom line at 51 miles away. So, woohoo! That's awesome to see. This is a great mileage sign because it lists a place that 19 goes and also a place that 27 goes. And, I mean, Tallahassee should have been the primary for a while now. We split off from US 27, now getting signed for Monticello, Florida. I guess I probably shouldn't be saying Florida because, like, that In any case, we get this weird Junction US 19 sign. I don't know why that's there, because we're on US 19, and it has kind of a weird shield design. But we can also see that we are to Interstate 10, and we will be making this right turn. Then we get another mileage sign with Monticello, now only 10 miles away on the top line, and we get Thomasville, Georgia, at 33 miles away on the bottom line, and I think that makes sense. That's the first kind of major town we'll pass through in Georgia. And here we are meeting Interstate 10 as it gets its great westbound choice of Tallahassee, and no comment. And then here is another mileage sign with Thomasville, 27 miles away on the bottom line. We come into Monticello once again and meet US 90 at this beautiful roundabout. Although, unfortunately, US 90 does not get an eastbound control city, so that's a little lame. But at least, again, we can see the Jefferson County Courthouse, and yeah, pretty cool roundabout. And then we get a one-line mileage sign with just Thomasville at 21 miles away, and I'll be honest, I'm actually not too upset about that, because there are not a ton of big places in Georgia, although I would kind of like to see Albany on this sign, although I do understand it is a bit far away at this point. And here we come into Georgia, and we got this Georgia state line sign followed by their proper welcome sign a little bit down the road. And I want to point out something, because I did not notice this on the southbound part 2 video. We get mileage markers in Georgia, but they work pretty weirdly. I'll talk a bit more about it later on, but for now, just keep this mile 0 marker in the back of your head. And then we get another mileage sign with Thomasville now on the top line at 14 miles away, and some town I'm not going to try to pronounce on the bottom line at 25 miles away, which I don't think should be there, because I think there are better choices for that coming up. And here we are meeting US 84 once again, and unfortunately we don't really get any control cities on US 19, but if we look at the off-ramp there, we can see that there is a green sign, and I believe East 84 is getting signed for Valdosta, which is really cool. Leaving that interchange, we get a free line mileage sign with Cairo, Georgia, 20 miles away. That is there because of US 84, which is now concurrent with us. We get Camilla as a secondary at 33 miles away. And our bottom line is now Albany at 60 miles away. And that is a great choice. And then here we are meeting US 319. And it gets signed for Thomasville, because technically we are not really in the town at this point. Downtown Thomasville is a bit west of here, and it gets signed eastbound for Moultrie. And for our concurrency of 19 and 84, we are getting Camilla, Cairo, and Pelham. So no Albany on there. I do not like that, although I think one of these could stay, probably Camilla, or maybe Pelham. I'm not sure which one is bigger, but these are fine secondaries, at least, I think. Georgia has one-upped Pennsylvania's signage on Interstate 80 eastbound with this 4-line mileage sign. In theory, our primary here is Albany at 58 miles away, although before that we get Camilla listed at 31 miles away, which in theory is our secondary here. And of course we get Cairo, Georgia at 18 miles away. That is our top line, although our bottom line is Pelham, 22 miles away. That is a closer secondary. And yeah, this sign is just really weird and makes no sense at all. Although at least they do have the correct primary, in theory, listed on this sign, so I don't know. Here is where US 84 leaves our concurrency, and as I stated before, it is the one that is going to Cairo, Georgia. And interestingly, we get mentions of US 319 on this sign, although we are not actually meeting it here. This road that we are intersecting it leads to US 319, and it is getting the same control cities that we saw on an equivalent sign that we saw that looked just like this in Southbound Part 2. So I think you could probably just do Thomasville again on this sign, because you already had multiple other options to go to Tallahassee at this point, so it's not the best choice for 319. I mean, I guess I like seeing it on there because, you know, it's Florida's capital, and 319 leads to Tallahassee. I don't know. What I definitely do not like is after leaving that intersection, we get this one-line mileage sign with Pelham on it, 25 miles away. No! There should be 2 lines on this sign, with Pelham being the first one and Albany being on the second one. This is so ridiculous. Why is Georgia doing what we saw on US 219 northbound in Pennsylvania, where they had Carrolltown only 8 miles away? Although at least Pelham is bigger than Carrolltown by a factor of like 4. I don't remember. But either way, it should definitely not be the only line on this mileage sign. Here we are crossing into Mitchell County, and remember how I said that the mileage sign, like the mile markers in Georgia, make no sense? Well, about 30 miles or so into Georgia, and they have now reset. Apparently, the mileage, like the mile markers, they reset at every county line, so I think that is weird and completely unhelpful. I think you should just have a running tally of all the miles that US 19 has been in Georgia. And here we are meeting Georgia Route 93, which is, I believe, the only reason we were signing Pelham. And the other way gets signed for Sail City, and now Albany comes back onto the sign, so that is good. And Albany is 35 miles away, as we can see by this mileage sign, where it is on the bottom line, thankfully. The highway sign 6615 on YouTube pointed this out to me. Here is a partial cloverleaf interchange with Georgia routes 133 and 234. Although, if we look on Google Maps, we can see that this used to be a full cloverleaf interchange, but the ramps to access Georgia routes 133 and 234 were removed at some point. So that is pretty interesting. And then just a little bit up the road in Albany, Georgia, we are meeting US 82 once again, along with Georgia routes 520 and 300. And they all get signed for Atlanta and Cordele. Although neither of these places US 82 actually goes to, so I think they're favoring the Georgia state routes here. I mean, pretty cool that we get an Atlanta mention here, although I kind of would like to see one place that US 82 actually goes to on this sign. But in any case, we have our brief concurrency with US 82, and on this overhead, when we exit off of US 82, we're getting signed Slappy Boulevard, so again, another name for a road of a sign, and Atlanta! We get signed for Atlanta! That is pretty cool because we are still very far away from Atlanta, but I mean, we go to Atlanta, so yeah, I'm pretty excited to see that. And if we look at our next mileage sign, we can see that's even on the bottom line at 168 miles away. So that is pretty cool to see. Although I wonder if it will actually hold up. And it does not. After we leave the Albany area, we get this mileage sign with Americus on the bottom line at 24 miles away. So I guess I can kind of understand not signing Atlanta from so far away on this kind of road. But then again, Florida was signing St. Petersburg from a farther distance away, so I don't see why Georgia can't do the same thing. But, I mean, at least Americus is kind of sizable, and there isn't other stuff along the way that I'd rather see, like Smithville, which is on our top line. I'm glad that's not the bottom line. And coming into Americus, or at least kind of south of it, either way, here we are meeting US Route 280, and we're going to have a brief concurrency with that. And on the other side of that intersection, we get this mileage sign with Cordele on the bottom line at 32 miles away, and I don't know if that's really the right choice here, because I think if you wanted to go to Cordele, you would have had other options to go to that. Although, I guess it's sort of a sizable town, so I don't know. Psychedelic Norwal wanted to see the northern junction of US 19 and 280, or in this case, where US 280 splits off from our concurrency. So here is that for you. Thank you for the request. On our next mileage sign, we get Ellaville 12 miles away on the top line, and Buena Vista 27 miles away on the bottom line. And Ellaville is where we meet Georgia Route 26, and it is the one going to Buena Vista. So we're favoring Georgia Route 26, and I do not like that at all. I believe it should be Griffin on the bottom line from here, because that's the next major town that we'll be going to. And then on this mileage sign, it's only one line, which is Butler at 22 miles away. No, put Griffin on it. Butler is just where we meet Georgia Route 96. And then at our intersection with Georgia Route 96, it gets signed for Geneva, which is a really tiny town of like not even 100 people. That should say Columbus, because it's going to take you over to US 80, which will be going to Columbus, which is a big city in Georgia. So put Columbus on that, and definitely do not sign Butler on US 19 as a primary. Maybe put it as a secondary, but yeah, definitely not on a one-line mileage sign. And we are now getting signed for Thomaston, which I'd still kind of like to see Griffin there, but at least Thomaston is a kind of big city. Well, it's like 15,000 people if I remember correctly, so yeah, I mean, it's fine, I guess, for this direction sign, but again, I'd rather just Griffin. But on our next mileage sign, Griffin does come onto our bottom line at 55 miles away, and Griffin is bigger than Thomaston, so I like that. And when we have our brief concurrency with US 80, Griffin still holds up on the bottom line at 40 miles away, and they don't favor US 80 this time, because last time it got signed for Columbus. Although I liked that. That was a good instance of Georgia favoring another route. And when US 80 splits off, it gets signed for Macon going eastbound. So that is pretty cool. Macon is another pretty big city in Georgia. And then our next mileage sign is a 3-line mileage sign. Thomaston is 12 miles away on the top line. We get Griffin on the second line at 38 miles away. And Atlanta has now come back on our bottom line at 79 miles away. Woohoo! Good to see. Here in Thomaston at this traffic light, we get these interesting overhead signs informing us of all the control cities for the different routes that are at this intersection. Georgia routes 36 and 74 get signed for Woodland and Columbus, and then Woodbury and Greenville, respectively. And now we get signed for Zebulon and Atlanta straight ahead. I think just Columbus and Atlanta would do the jobs for 36 and 19 respectively. And if we're going to go with 2 for 19, I think I'd rather see Griffin and Atlanta, but at least Atlanta is on there for us, so cool. Although on our next mileage sign, we get Zebulon on the top line and Griffin on the bottom line. I really don't think you need Zebulon there at all. Just have Griffin and Atlanta, because we're not that far away from Atlanta now. Here we are meeting and going to be concurrent with US 41 once again. And Business 19 and 41 are getting signed for Griffin. 41 South is getting signed for Barnesville. And we are now getting signed to Interstate 75, which I'm not really sure how to feel about that. But after passing through Griffin, we get this mileage sign, which does not have Atlanta at all. We get Sunnyside 5 and Hampton 7. Again, absolutely no mention of Atlanta. So they're basically just going back to how they were doing it on southbound north of Atlanta, which is just having the worst mileage signs ever. What the heck are you doing here, Georgia? This mileage sign is absolutely terrible. Ugh. Put Hampton as the top line and then Atlanta. Yeah, we should be signed for Atlanta at this point. Ugh. Here we are meeting Interstate 75, and we don't get any control cities for it, and looking back at southbound part 2, I don't think we got any control cities for it at least one of the times that we met it, and I didn't mention that, so that's kind of lame, but it is what it is, I guess. Here we are meeting the Atlanta Beltway for the first time, Interstate 285, and it does not get any control cities either, although I guess that's kind of understandable because you could basically sign anything for 285 because it meets with Interstate 75, 85, its parent, 20. There's all sorts of places you can get to off of 285. And here we are meeting Interstate 85 once again, where we have northbound access only. And once again, we don't get any control cities for the road that we're meeting. But if we look at this pull through that we can see here, northbound 85 is getting signed for Atlanta because we are still south of downtown at this point, so that is pretty cool. I forgot to show this on southbound 19 part 2, but this overpass carries Interstate 20 and we have no access to it, obviously, because we are starting to kind of get into urban Atlanta, and look at these buildings around us. There is no place for ramp here. And in downtown Atlanta, we are meeting up with and going to be concurrent with US 29 once again, along with US 41. Also, I didn't mention it earlier, but the Dirt Hog wanted me to mention that he did a US 41 Southern video, so I will leave a link to that up in the cards. Go check that out. And here at these reassurance shields, US 41 goes away and we only get US 19 and 29, so that's pretty weird. And here we are meeting US 278 and 78 once again. And I am actually kind of familiar with US 278 because it goes to Hilton Head, South Carolina. Had a few wonderful vacations there. Hope I can go again sometime. But once again, this is where we have 6 concurrent highways, although they don't tell you that fact because there'd just be so much signage, I guess. And then here is where we split off from US 41. And now we're meeting the Atlanta Beltway, Interstate 285 once again. And we get no control cities on this pavement, but if we look over to our right, we can see the control cities of Atlanta, and I'm sorry, I cannot take that town name seriously. And we also get Glenridge Drive, which I don't think we really need that on there. And here we are splitting off of Interstate 285 as we are now going to be concurrent with Georgia Route 400 as we are going to... Got me. There, I said it. Here's another look at the 19 and 285 interchange. We can see it's pretty crazy with all these ramps going all over the place. Hey Georgia, since there technically isn't actually a speed limit listed on this sign, does that mean I can go as fast as I want? Here is a laundry list of exits that we have coming up on US 19 because there are quite a lot of them here in this northern suburban area of Atlanta. And Tiger Raven wanted to see exit 10 on US 19 and Georgia 400, which is Old Milton Parkway going to Alpharetta. So thank you for that request. And we can also see that the next exit after that is also getting signed for Alpharetta, which is the Windward Parkway, so that is pretty interesting. And then on our next mileage sign, we get coming at 4 miles away, and then we get this town that I'm not going to try to pronounce again at 26 miles away, which I guess is better to sign in this direction than northbound, because going southbound, every control city in northern Georgia was dwarfed by Atlanta's 500,000 people. So, yeah, I really don't know what else you would go with. Here we are meeting up with and going to become concurrent with Georgia 60 once again as it gets signed for Gainesville going the other way, and we are getting signed for, again, I don't know how to pronounce that, but if you saw Southbound Part 2, then you would know that I kind of complained about our concurrency going that way, getting signed for Gainesville, which, yeah, Georgia 60 is fine to sign Gainesville on, although I still think that you should have been signing Atlanta for 19 southbound, but, I don't know. Here is our next mileage sign, and we now got Ella J on the bottom line at 44 miles away. So in this case, they are favoring Georgia Route 52, which we'll be meeting shortly. And I mean, I'd rather see that than Blairsville, which is like half of the size of Ella J, and absolutely is not primary worthy at all. So here is where we meet Georgia routes 9 and 52, and 9 gets signed for Dawsonville, which was another city that they favored over 19's theoretical primary of Atlanta. And now we are going to have a 3-highway concurrency of 19 and Georgia 52 and 60 as we get signed for Blairsville. Oh, no. And it comes on to our bottom line at 36 miles away, so I am not happy about that. 600 people. Here is the southern end of our concurrency with US 129 once again as we get bad and absolutely horrible. US 129 is getting signed for Cleveland, and we are still getting signed for Blairsville. Although, I guess in this case, Cleveland is not too bad for US 129 because I'm not sure what else it really goes to besides Gainesville, which if you wanted to go to, you might as well have just gotten on Georgia 60, although, again, Gainesville kind of a big town for these parts, but I don't know. It definitely should not be Blairsville going northbound. It should be Murphy, North Carolina. Well, how about that? So we make our left turn to begin our US 19 and 129 concurrency, and then we get this mileage sign, which has Blairsville on the top line at 22 miles away, and then we do get Murphy on the bottom line at 41 miles away. So that's a little bit better at least. Here we are meeting up with and going to become concurrent with US 76 as well as Georgia 2 and Georgia 515 once again. Although they do not tell us that US 76 is on this pavement, we only get this blue Georgia 515 shield, so I don't like that. And here are our reassurance shield for all of these highways concurrent on this pavement. And here is where we split off of US 76, and Georgia has made another shield error. At this intersection, US 129 is once again mislabeled as Georgia 129. And this one is really, really stupid because if we look at the pavement that we're going to be turning onto, we can see a correct US 129 shield. So, hey Georgia, how about you fix that sign? Along with some of the other ones that we saw in Southbound Part 2. And then we get this one-line mileage sign with Murphy at 22 miles away, so I guess that's probably okay because for a while in North Carolina we don't really hit anything else that would be primary worthy. And here we are coming into North Carolina. They were a mixed bag on Southbound Part 2, so let's see how this goes. And our first major intersection is where we begin our concurrency with US 64 and 74. We get 4 highways on one concurrency, and we get signed Chattanooga going west for 64 and 74. Once again, an awesome choice there. And the other way, we are getting signed for both Murphy and Asheville. So right away, we got Asheville. That is awesome. I like that. And here are our reassurance shields for the quad concurrency of 64, 74, 19, and 129 once again. And here we are coming into Murphy, where US 64 splits off to go to Hayesville. And that is not a great choice for 64 East. It should be Franklin on that sign. And yes, I'm confident about that one because it's not as far away as the Pennsylvania one was from Brookville. I don't know. I'm going to redo my 322 videos one day. Although, on our next sign with control cities, after we lose concurrency with US 64, we only get Andrews and Bryson City, so I'm not really too much of a fan of that. On Southbound, I was kind of okay with Andrews because there wasn't really too much else to sign, and Andrews and Murphy are roughly the same size, but on this sign, I definitely think it should just be Asheville because both 19 and 74 are going there. And then here we come into Andrews, and we only get this 19 business signed for Andrews, so they don't really give us any other control cities here, and I don't like that. Although, as we go around the town of Andrews, we get this beautiful scenery with the mountains here, so that is really cool. Here is where US 129 leaves our concurrency, as it gets signed for Robbinsville, Fontana, and Knoxville. I think just Knoxville can do the job there. I don't really think you need 3 control cities for 129. And straight ahead, we are still getting signed for Bryson City, which I think should be Asheville. And then on our next mod sign, actually the first one I could find in North Carolina, because they're really stingy about those in this part. We got Bryson City on our top line and Cherokee on our bottom line at 33 miles away. So again, where is Asheville? We split off of US 74, and we now get signed for Bryson City and Cherokee. Well, that was what was on that mileage sign. But right before we get to the ramp, we get this mileage sign with Waynesville on the top line at 39 miles away, and Asheville is on the bottom line at 66 miles away. So I guess North Carolina prefers that you would take US 74 to get to Asheville, and the Dirtpog has told me that it is actually faster to go that way. So I guess I could kind of see why they wouldn't sign Asheville, but the thing is, US 19 and 74 are concurrent, and they're both going to Asheville. So I think you should still sign Asheville at the other signs up to this exit anyways. Ugh, North Carolina. Up to their old tricks. Here at this railroad crossing, yay, we make this right turn as we still get signed for Bryson City and Cherokee, and also to Blue Ridge Parkway. So once again, yeah, I guess that makes sense if you want to differentiate it from US 74. And here in Bryson City, I forgot to show this South Connector US 19, which takes you over to US 74, which is actually, I guess, how they want you to get to US 74 if you're coming from southbound. Although, if you're heading north and you got off of US 74 and you want to get back to 74, this is how you would go. But at our left turn, we can see that once again we're getting signed for Cherokee, as we also get Great Smoky Mountains National Park, so I guess that's cool to have on a sign. And then leaving Bryson City, we get this 3-line mileage sign, which has Cherokee 10 miles away on the top line, Silva on the second line at 18 miles away, and we get Asheville on the bottom line, 59 miles away. So that's pretty cool that even though I guess they really didn't want you going this way to get to Asheville, we get it anyways. So once again, I still don't understand why they couldn't have put it on other signs before this. And here we are meeting up with and going to become concurrent with US 441 very briefly once again. And we get a ton of control cities here, with the real stars of the show here being Atlanta for 441, because 441 doesn't go to Atlanta, but it means other routes that go to Atlanta. So I'm really happy to see that there. even though we just came from Atlanta, but whatever. I'm sure traffic, like most traffic realistically, isn't going to be going all this way on 19. And we also get Asheville, Cherokee, and Maggie Valley for straight ahead. So basically all the information you would ever want right here. Here is where US 441 splits off of our concurrency, and I'm really curious about this Kobe Express restaurant. It's a Japanese restaurant, and I have to wonder if they actually serve real Kobe beef. If they did, it would probably be really expensive to eat at their restaurant, but I'm sure it would be worth it. Unless they don't actually serve that kind of beef and they're just doing that for fun. Japanese. Here we are meeting up with US 276, and we're going to be concurrent with it again, and it gets the same awesome control city of Knoxville as before because it's meeting up with Interstate 40. And the Dirtbog showed me this. He says it's a bummer that I didn't show it on US 19 Southbound Part 2, but since he brought it up, I figured I would anyways. This ski town light thingy, this looks pretty cool. And here we are splitting off of US 276 as it gets signed for Waynesville and West Carolina University, and once again we're getting signed for Asheville. We meet up with US 74 once again, although this time we do it in a Y junction, so we have no access to westbound US 74 once again, as it crosses over us and we can see eastbound 74 traffic coming in from the right. And we have another brief little concurrency with it before we split off to go to Clyde and Canton, as 74 gets signed to Interstate 40, Asheville and Knoxville. So that is a great sign by North Carolina, and I suppose those other towns help us to differentiate from 19, 23, and 74. We are very close to Interstate 40 at this point, and if we make a left turn, we can see that it is signed for Asheville going eastbound, and it's awful westbound choice of Canton going westbound, because I believe we just came from Canton, and it is only like 5 miles from here, so again, why not go with Knoxville? North Carolina provincialism at its finest. And here we are in Inca, Candler, whatever, once again, as US 19 and 23 get signed for Canton northbound and Asheville for us. So again, that is good to see. And here we are meeting Interstate 40 directly, technically the other intersection. We had to make a turn to get onto 40, even though it was right there. But either way, on this side, once again, as we did before, eastbound 40 gets no control cities. Although on the other side of the intersection is another sign for 40 West Canton, so here we are meeting up with and going to become concurrent with Interstate 240 once again, and it gets a combination of the Kentucky treatment, and we are now signed for Weaverville as opposed to Johnson City. So, North Carolina once again fumbling the ball here, and they've been doing a worse job than Southbound, because we haven't had too many great signs other than the last few where we've had Asheville or whenever it was signed for Asheville. Either way, here we are splitting off of Interstate 240, getting signed for UNC Asheville and Weaverville and Johnson City. Although a little bit down the road, we actually do get a mileage sign with Johnson City on our bottom line at 59 miles away, along with Burnsville as our top line at 29 miles away. And I think that's a fine secondary because that is where 19E and W will split off, and we will end this video. And then we get another mileage sign. Johnson City is still on our bottom line, now 9 miles closer, so a little bit of redemption for North Carolina after I was just complaining about them. And here we are splitting off of, I guess, future Interstate 26 here. And we get signed for Burnsville and Spruce Pine. And US 23A, actually, you have to turn off of when you get off the exit. 23A is not like current production or anything, but Spruce Pine was on there for that route, so I guess that makes sense. And as we continue along, US 19 just by itself, as we head towards the EW split, we get some beautiful scenery here, so I like that. Here is where US 19E splits off from US 19W. 19W goes left, and we will be going straight. Although, before we actually really get anywhere, I wanted to show you something really funny that I found when I was getting pictures for 19W, like US 19 Southbound Part 2. If we look at the beginning of US 19W, we get this notice to truckers that trucks are not recommended on US 19W because of the steep grades and winding curves that it goes through. Although, here is this sign from 2013, and we can see that NCDOT has made a typo. They forgot to put out the second M in the word recommended. And then here is another sign just up the road from that one where they actually did get it correctly. And this is also from 2013. So I just thought that was really funny. But anyways, here is our first junction on US 19E after the split. And it is with North Carolina Route 197. It is getting signed for Pensacola. So I wonder if I take 197 south, can I eventually get into Florida? And we are signed for Spruce Pine. And I must address a mistake that I made in Northbound Part 1 when we were looking at a sign for US 23A and US 19. We were getting signed for Spruce Pine and 23A was getting signed for something else. So I apologize for any confusion I may have caused when I incorrectly said that 23A was getting signed for Spruce Pine. But anyways, here is our first mileage sign that we will see in this video, and it is a one-line sign with only Spruce Pine at 15 miles away, which, I mean, to be honest, I think that probably makes sense. There's really not a whole lot that US 19E goes through, although there is actually more civilization that it goes through. Like, there's actually more towns and stuff, but like none of them are really that major. Maybe I would like to see Elizabethton, Tennessee on this sign, because that's like the first real like major place that we're gonna go to, but I don't think it's too much of a crime. Here is where North Carolina 197 splits off and is getting signed for Red Hill and Bakersville, I think that is. It's kind of hard to read, but we are still getting signed for Spruce Pine. And then here is a reassurance shield of just 19E, and we can see that we have a two-line mileage sign where Spruce Pine is still on the bottom line, our theoretical control city, and it is 14 miles away. Here we are meeting North Carolina Route 226, and we're going to be, I believe, concurrent with southbound North Carolina 226. It gets signed for Bakersville and Mitchell High, and we are still signed for Spruce Pine because we are still technically not to Spruce Pine yet. Here is where southbound North Carolina 226 splits off, and at our left turn we are signed for Spruce Pine downtown. It is getting signed for Marion, and in the other direction also gets Bakersville, but we don't get any control city, so that's a little weird. Why is the, in theory, the upper route on the hierarchy, why is that not getting favored? I don't know. But here we are meeting North Carolina 194, and I believe we're also going to have a concurrency with it. Or this is where we split off of it, and we are now getting signed for Cranberry. And I don't really like that too much, because Cranberry is an unincorporated community. And at this point, I think you really should just start signing Elizabethton, Tennessee. But then we see this one-line mileage sign with only Cranberry on it. So they're not even putting anything else north of 17 miles away on it. So what the heck? This is not a good sign from North Carolina. Shocker, I know, but still. But along the way to Cranberry, we can see some beautiful scenery on US 19E here in North Carolina. I really like the fall foliage that Google was able to capture with this street view. Here is where we will have a left turn with US 19E and North Carolina 194. We are now getting signed for Roan Mountain, which I don't really like at all. That is the first place that 19E goes through in Tennessee, so yeah, again, I'd rather see Elizabethton on there. Here is where North Carolina 194 is splitting off from us, so we were meeting and going to start a concurrency with 194 at that other picture, but anyway, now we are getting signed for Elk Park. I don't know what the heck they're doing here. I guess they really just don't want to sign Elizabethton, Tennessee for whatever reason. They just want to go with all these other smaller places. And then on our next mileage sign, Elk Park is only 1 mile away, while Roan Mountain is on our bottom line at 6 miles away. I really feel like Roan Mountain should just be the top line and Elizabethton being the second line, but what are you going to do? Here we are coming into Tennessee, and this time we actually see Tennessee's proper welcome sign, because we did not see that on southbound part 1 when we came into Tennessee in Bristol. They just had a pathetic entering Tennessee green small sign. Yeah, so this time we actually get a proper welcome to Tennessee, so that is nice to see. And immediately afterwards, we see another mileage sign where Roan Mountain is now on our top line at 5 miles away, and Elizabethton comes onto our bottom line at 20 miles away. Finally! This should have been signed from so much further. Here we are coming up to our turn to go to Roan Mountain State Park, and we meet Tennessee 143, but we get no mention of that, and 143 doesn't really get a proper control city, so here is a one-line mileage sign with Elizabethton at 16 miles away, and again, that's probably the correct choice for a one-line. Maybe I'd like to see like Bristol or something also thrown onto the sign. But if you're just going to do one, I'd say Elizabethton is probably the right choice. Here we are meeting US 321 and Tennessee Route 67, and they're getting signed for Mountain City and Boone, North Carolina, here at this Shell and Dunkin' Donuts. And then we are actually also concurrent with West Tennessee 67 and North US 321, although we don't get a reassured shield for 19E, so that's a little weird. Valley Forge? Oh no! How did we already get into Pennsylvania? I thought we were in Tennessee. Why are we seeing a sign for Valley Forge? Oh no, that's not good. Here is US 321 splitting off along with Tennessee 67. And we also get a 2 Interstate 26 shield, as we are now also going to be concurrent with Tennessee 91, getting signed for Shady Valley and Bristol, and the other way gets Johnson City. So I feel like you could have mentioned Johnson City on this route, even though we don't go to it, but either way, we are going to continue straight ahead. And pretty soon after that intersection, 91 just splits off, and it is the one getting signed for Shady Valley, so we are getting signed for Bristol. And then just after where Tennessee 91 splits off, I noticed this beautiful street view imagery where Google actually got some snow on the ground. I think I just said that, but either way, this street view imagery was from January of 2024, and it's really cool that we get some of that. And here we are meeting back up with US 19W, and from this point forward, we are just going to be on regular US 19, and we will be on regular US 19 all the way throughout the rest of the video to Erie. Anyway, now we are getting signed for Bristol, while the other way is getting signed for Johnson City, as it should be. And here is a reassurance shield for both US 11E and 19. The 19 one kind of reminds me of some of the shields we saw in Georgia. The shield itself does not actually take up the full width of the sign, so that's kind of interesting. Here we are crossing over the Holston River once again. Still got some snow on the ground. Here we are coming up to the Bristol city limits, although just like with St. Petersburg, Florida, the city limits of Bristol stretch out pretty far, and we are still quite a ways from downtown, and it appears we have lost our snow shot, so that's a little disappointing. Here we go by the Bristol Motor Speedway once again. And we are now meeting up with US 421 and going to have a brief concurrency with it. South 421, turn right. 11E, 19, and 421, stay straight. As we also get a couple pieces of railroad equipment just randomly right here, so that is pretty cool. And now we come into Virginia. I was a little bit wary about Tennessee's signage going in, because from what I have learned after making Southbound Part 1, where I was praising them a lot, yeah, I didn't know about some of the bad choices that they make on US highways, so I'm a lot more aware of that now. But it actually wasn't too bad. But in any case, like I said, here we are coming into Virginia, and we get some more snow on the ground, so really cool. And here is where 421 splits off, and now US 11E and W are reuniting to form regular US 11, and we are going to become concurrent with regular US 11. As we also get 2 Interstate 81 straight ahead. Here we are meeting Interstate 81 and US 58. North 81 is getting signed north for Roanoke, and I believe southbound it gets signed for Knoxville, which is the correct choice. And on Interstate 81 and US 58, we are getting the Kentucky treatment of the highway. And at first I got really mad about this, but then I had a thought, like, what would the control cities be? Because you would have to favor both US 11 and 19, so in hindsight, maybe this is actually a good usage of the Kentucky treatment. Although, we come up to secondary Virginia Route 869, and we can see it is not recommended for tractor trailers. And we get GPS routing not advised. But, hey, Virginia, if that's the case, what is our control city? Maybe you could tell us that, so truckers could try to take another route to avoid Virginia 869. Here at this exit off of Interstate 81, we can see that we are now getting signed for Abingdon, which I think that probably makes sense. We're a bit far away from Bluefield, and I believe that's what we will be signed for in a bit. Here is where US 11 and 19 go their separate ways, and we are now getting signed for Hansonville and Bluefield. I believe Hansonville is either a secondary or they are signing that for US 58 Alt, which we will be meeting shortly. Here is a reassurance shield and mileage sign combo that Virginia likes to do, and we are getting Bluefield 79 miles away on the bottom line, and our secondary is Lebanon. Here we are meeting and going to be concurrent with alternate US 58, west straight ahead, east turn right. And here is another mileage sign reassurance shield combo, although it looks like US 19 has left the chat. We only get a westbound alternate US 58 shield, but we still get Bluefield on the bottom line as we are now a mile closer to it. I think Norton was not our secondary before. I think that's on alternate 58. Here is where alternate 58 splits off, and we continue to go straight. And then we get another reassurance shield and mileage sign combo with Tazewell now being our secondary at 47 miles away. Bluefield still on the bottom line at 66 miles away. And here we are coming into Lebanon, or at least going around it, as we meet Business US 19 and Virginia's secondary route 660, also getting signed for Cleveland. And past Lebanon, we're getting another reassurance shield mileage sign combo. Bluefield now only 56 miles away, and Tazewell is our secondary at 37. Here is where we are meeting and going to become concurrent with US 460 for the first of two times going this direction. And we are now signed, well, we are still assigned for Bluefield, and I believe 460 is getting signed for Richlands and Pikeville at the left turn, so interesting that it gets two control cities. Here is a mileage sign with both 19 and 460 reassurance shields. Although we only get Tazewell and Bluefield, we don't get any strictly 460 cities. Also, look at these mountains in the background. That is beautiful. Here is a business route for both US 19 and 460 once again. We saw this also in southbound Part 1. Past that turn, we get this 3-line mileage sign, which has Tazewell on the top line, Bluefield on the second line, and Roanoke on the bottom line at 129 miles away. that is for US 460, and it seems like they're kind of favoring 460 on this line, but that is a-okay because I like seeing Roanoke there. That is an awesome choice to have on the bottom line. And here is where I believe the business route of 19 and 460 comes back, and then we get another mileage sign with Perrysburg as our secondary at 52 miles away, and Roanoke is still on the bottom line. Correction, I think this sign is where they're favoring 460. That other one is like for both of them, really. But either way, I still like seeing Roanoke on that bottom line there. That is really cool. And here is where we split off of US 460 as we're getting signed for Bluefield and West Graham. I have no idea what West Graham is, but we do still have Bluefield on there because we are technically south of downtown and stuff. So, good sign, I suppose. Here we are coming into West Virginia, and we can see that we are entering into Mercer County. Oh no, even in West Virginia, we can't escape Mercer. Oh boy. Here is the big bridge that US 52 goes over on its way to meet up with us, and we're going to be concurrent with a little bit. Here are the shields where we actually need it, and they're going to start our brief. Actually, wrong way concurrency because we have a north and southbound route. And it's also a long way concurrency in the sense that 52 should be, in theory, signed east and west, but they sign it north and south in West Virginia. Here is where US 52 splits off, and now we're going to be concurrent with South Truck US 52. And here is a picture of the Bluefield Norfolk Southern Yard. I just had to get this because, you know me, if you've seen any of these videos before, I love trains. Here is where US 460 splits off, and we are getting signed for Princeton now, and the other way is getting signed for Tazewell. Here is a 3-line mileage sign with Princeton on the top line, Oakdale in the middle, and Perrysburg, Virginia is our bottom line at 35 miles away. So this is another mileage sign where they're favoring 460 on our second concurrency with it. I feel like you could have Perrysburg being a second line and Beckley being a bottom line, or just have Beckley somewhere on the sign. I'm not sure which is farther away at this point. Here is where 460 splits off, and it is getting signed for Perrysburg, Virginia, and now we are getting signed for Princeton. Actually, I guess that's the right choice on the 19 and 460 concurrency for us, because Beckley is a bit far away, actually, and I mean, Princeton isn't like that small. It's like 5,000 people, I believe, so I guess signing it over Beckley isn't too much of a crime, although we should definitely be signed for Beckley after leaving Princeton. And here in downtown Princeton, we're meeting West Virginia 20 as we get this split of turn right to stay on North 19, and turn right will lead you to northbound West Virginia 20. Here we are meeting Interstate 77 once again, and it is getting its not very good controls of Beckley and Bluefield. We should be signed for Beckley, and it should be signed for, I believe, Charleston at this point, and southbound probably Charlotte, although I guess Wytheville might not be so bad because of the famous wrong way concurrency of 81. But anyway, at this sign off of the exit from 77, we can see that southbound 19 is getting signed for Camp Creek State Park, and northbound we get nothing because they really don't want to sign anything for 19 because they can't sign Beckley for reasons. I don't know why we don't get a control city, but anyway, here we are meeting and going to become concurrent with West Virginia Route 3 as we get another sign for Beckley, as it should be. And here in Beckley, we are concurrent with West Virginia Route 16 to Interstate 64 and 77 as we are getting signed for Bradley and Oak Hill. I believe Oak Hill is the correct choice out of Beckley because that is the next major town along the way. Here we are meeting the ramp over to Interstate 64 and 77. It is getting signed for Bluefield, and we are getting signed for Oak Hill and Summersville. So we are throwing a... Well, I think that's the next control after Oak Hill. I guess Oak Hill is kind of like a secondary at this point, but I don't think we really need to worry about Summersville just yet. And here is a picture that the Derphog took one time. He was making a trip from North Carolina to Springfield, Illinois. He was getting on to southbound US 19 and West Virginia 16 at this interchange, although sadly he did not get on northbound 19. But either way, I just wanted to show this picture because also the Derphog was really hoping to show some pictures on 19 and he only got this one and a couple others. Anyway, we see a mileage sign with Oak Hill on the second line of 3, and Fayetteville is on the bottom line at 16 miles away. So where did Somerville go? Although I think Fayetteville is like about the same size, maybe a tad bit bigger than Somerville. I don't know. Either way, at this point, I really think maybe they should just have a 2-line with Oak Hill on the bottom line. But we're going to move on. Past Oak Hill, we get another 3-line mileage sign where Fayetteville is on the top line at 4 miles away. We got Summersville on the second line at 31 miles away, and now Clarksburg becomes our bottom line at 122 miles away. And I'm actually not really too sure how to feel about this, because I feel like Clarksburg is only on there for Interstate 79, which we're going to be meeting in a little bit. So if they were strictly talking about like 19, then yeah, that might be a pretty good control city. But since we're going to be concurrent with 79, I'm not really so sure that I like to see that Clarksburg there. We'll see what they do. Here we are crossing over the New River once again on this massive, massive, massive bridge that is 876 feet above the river, which is absolutely insane. But we got some beautiful scenery as always in West Virginia. Here we are meeting US 60, the Midland Trail, with its terrible, terrible control cities of Gawley Bridge and Raynell. I believe this should be Charleston for westbound, and I forget what the correct eastbound control city would be for here, but it is certainly not Raynell. Should be something bigger. After leaving that intersection, we get Mount Nebo, 10 miles away on the top line. Summersville is our secondary, and now we're getting I-79 on the bottom line at 41 miles away, which I suppose in of itself isn't too bad, but that is giving me a pretty bad feeling that maybe that Clarksburg was there because of the fact that we're meeting 79. And Here is another mileage sign with Birch River 18 miles away on the top line. Sutton 31 miles away as our secondary middle line. And Clarksburg is our bottom line at 92 miles away. So yes, it appears that they are favoring Interstate 79 and giving it its terrible primary of Clarksburg. Should be Morgantown or Pittsburgh at this point. Here we are going to be meeting up with and becoming concurrent with Interstate 79 for a short time, as it gets its southbound control city of Charleston, which is correct, and northbound it is signed for Clarksburg, as opposed to either of those other cities that I mentioned before. And our first mileage sign that we see after we merge onto Interstate 79 has Sutton on the top line, Weston on the second line, and Clarksburg on the bottom line at 63 miles away. Nope. We are going to fix that right now. Here is what this mileage sign should look like, or maybe even, I don't know, have Clarksburg be the top line, Morgantown be the second line, and Pittsburgh on the bottom line. Either way, this mileage sign I think is at least a lot better than what they do have, and it has been fixed by yours truly. So get your act together, West Virginia. Start signing Morgantown on Interstate 79. You'll be way better off for it. Anyway, here we split off of Interstate 79, and we can see that West Virginia 4 is the one getting signed for Sutton, and not 19. Although I can still kind of understand why Sutton would be somewhat, maybe, I can understand why it's on signs, because that is roughly where 79 and 19 split off. But now we're getting signed for Flatwoods. What the heck is that? Oh, it's the first line on this mileage line, and it's only a mile away. And our secondary is now Rock Cave at 21 miles away, and Weston is on our bottom line at 42 miles away. So, yeah, having Weston as a primary for us makes sense. And it should definitely be not on the bottom line for 79, although maybe it could be a top line on something. Either way, here we are coming into Weston, and we are meeting and going to be concurrent with 33 and 119 very briefly. Here is where those routes split off, and now we're getting signed for Jackson's Mill. Again, I have no idea what the heck that is. It probably should be Clarksburg at this point, or Fairmont. I don't remember 100% what our next town is. Oh, here we are getting another mileage sign with Jane Lou on the top line, and Clarksburg as our bottom line at 22 miles away. So, yeah, I believe Clarksburg is what you should have put on that last sign, and not Jackson's Mill. That was stupid. So here we are meeting US 50, getting signed for Parkersburg and Bridgeport once again. Then we got another mileage sign with Fairmont on the bottom line at 25 miles away. That is a good choice. Although, interestingly, this one is only 2 lines, because normally they like to do 3 lines in West Virginia. Here in Fairmont, we are meeting US 250. Although at this intersection, we do not get any control cities, so that's a bit lame. Here we are just outside of Morgantown, meeting Interstate 79 once again, as it gets its terrible control cities of Fairmont southbound and Washington, PA northbound. So, I mean, at least they put the PA there, but there really is no excuse not to put Pittsburgh, so just put Pittsburgh on it. I don't know what the heck they're doing. And I have been off of this exit one time back in May of 2024. Here is what 19 gets signed for on the ramp. Granville, Westover, and Morgantown because we are technically not downtown yet. And here are the direction shields for US 19 off of this ramp. So there's going to be a couple more personal pictures from me coming up this video because I want to show you some other stuff that I have taken. Anyway, here we are crossing over the Monongahela River for the first time, going northbound, as we get somewhat of a view of downtown Morgantown, and we can see a bit more of the river looking out to our right. We're meeting up with US 119 once again, and also West Virginia 7. We will be concurrent with westbound West Virginia 7, and eastbound West Virginia 7 is concurrent with US 119. And if you want to go south on 119 to Interstate 68, you'll want to make a right turn. And here is another sign in downtown Morgantown where we get to Interstate 79, North 19, and West 7 turn left, as this right turn will just lead you to a street in Morgantown. At this left turn to Interstate 79, it gets its awful control cities of Fairmont and Washington, PA once again, and it looks like we are getting signed for New Martinsville. I'm guessing that's there for West Virginia 7, but why is there no control city for us? That's really weird. And here we are coming into Pennsylvania, our last state. And we just get the minor version of their welcome sign, so I'm glad we're not getting the version that we see on the interstates, because you already know why. Our first, our first noteworthy place at all in Pennsylvania is Mount Morris. And here in Mount Morris, we get another intersection with a 279 shield on it. And this road will actually lead you over here to this interchange with Interstate 79. So here is my own picture on Interstate 79 where that road leads to the interchange. Here on the other side of Mount Morris, we meet some random road that gets a direction sign with control cities on it. And since that is the case, I was hoping that we would get one at this intersection, because that would be our first chance to find out what our northbound control city is. So let's take a look off of this intersection and let's see what we get. It says Kirby. The sign says Kirby. Do you want to know what Kirby is? It's just some random buildings in the middle of nowhere! We are getting signed for just some random intersection! That is what we are getting signed for. That is why Kirby is on this sign. Are you freaking kidding me? And the other way getting signed for Mount Morris is really not that great either. I think you should probably just say Morgantown, because I mean, it's only 1 mile away. Mount Morris is unincorporated community, but like, holy sweet mother Jesus. I understand that maybe Pittsburgh is a bit too far away to sign, maybe even Washington, but can we just sign US 19 for some semblance of civilization and just sign it for Waynesburg? Oh my goodness gracious, PennDOT. This is the worst direction sign I've ever seen. This is ridiculous. Just put Waynesburg and Morgantown on it. Oh, it's okay. Southbound, you can favor both routes inside for Morgantown. Kirby. What the heck? Again, just getting signed for basically just for just getting signed for some random intersection in the middle of nowhere. Here is what it looks like when we get to the intersection, which is the reason that we're signed for Kirby. There is nothing here. We only get a 279 shield and garage for 6 miles. This road leads over to this interchange, which doesn't even mention 19 at all. And we don't even get any other information about us, like what our next control city after it. This is so useless to sign. Why is it on there? It should be Waynesburg. Okay, so just outside of Waynesburg, we meet Pennsylvania Route 21. We're going to have a brief concurrency with it, and we get signed for Waynesburg at only 1 mile away, when at this point it should be Washington PA. But you know what? I'm just at least glad to see Waynesburg on there, because that's what should have been signed there, like out of Morgantown or Mount Morris. I don't know. Either way, here we are splitting off of Pennsylvania 21, and at this intersection, we don't get any sort of information about our control city, and we don't get any mileage signs after this, so I had to look at this intersection with Pennsylvania 221, where we are getting correctly signed for Waynesburg and Washington. So that is good at least, but I don't know why you couldn't have signed Waynesburg at that direction sign. Here we have this interchange with 79 where we only get access to southbound, and it is getting signed for Waynesburg and Morgantown. I think just Morgantown will do the job there. And a little bit further up the road, we come to this intersection where we get another direction sign where Waynesburg is listed for southbound, and we get Amity at 2 miles away. No! Amity is like not even a real town. It's like an unincorporated community. It should be Washington PA on this sign. Terrible. And here we are at another interchange with Interstate 79 where it's getting Washington PA and Waynesburg, so PennDOT showing their provincialism as always. And here's another sign at this interchange where Washington PA is straight up ahead, and they're only putting that on there because of Interstate 79. We don't really get a control city, and we can see Lone Pine is signed for this right turn, and that's the only reason that Lone Pine is signed on 79, like at the exit. But anyway, here we are coming into the Washington PA area, and we are meeting and going to become concurrent with US 40 for a little bit. Here is where those routes go their separate ways. And we come to the Interstate 70 and 79 concurrency where they get 3 good control cities, and we're just going to move on because I don't even want to talk about that last one. Leaving that interchange, we get this overhead pull-through for Pittsburgh, so that is pretty cool to see. And just a little bit down the road from that, we get this awesome view. So PennDOT is not good at signing control cities, but at least we are in a state with some beautiful scenery, just like West Virginia. Here we are turning left to stay on to US 19 as the right turn goes to the bypass 19 that is signed on Google Maps, but there is no indication of that in real life. And then we are meeting up with Interstate 376, going to have a very, very brief concurrency with it, and US 22 and 30. And we are getting signed for Uniontown and West End. I believe Uniontown is for PA 51. Not sure how I feel about West End getting signed for us. Here is where we exit off of Interstate 376, and actually North 19 and 51 are getting signed for Weston, and South Truck 19 and 51 are getting signed for Uniontown. I guess that's the designation for bypass 19 is Truck 19? I don't know. Here we get an exit for Interstate 279 North, West End Bridge, and North Shore. And we are signed to North Pennsylvania 65, West End Bridge, and Ohio River Boulevard. So I guess both of these roads here will take you to the West End Bridge, and we just have secondary things to differentiate them. Here we are on the West End Bridge, and we are now getting the Kentucky treatment of Ohio River Boulevard, while Truck North 19, South PA 65, and the road to Interstate 279, they are getting signed for Downtown and North Shore. And we can also see Heinz Field over on the right, as well as a bit of Pittsburgh. Yes, I'm going to continue to call it Heinz Field because that's what it will always be known as to me. It's what it should have still been in. Either way, here are some more overhead signs. As once again, we see the Kentucky treatment, Ohio River Boulevard, and we just get two more names of roads thrown on there, as opposed to, I don't know, Zelianople or something for Control City. And Downtown and North Shore is to the right, Truck North 19, South PA 65 to Interstate 279. So we split off of Pennsylvania 65, and then we just get more Kentucky treatment on this sign, Marshall Avenue and California Avenue. Again, why won't you put a Control City on it? But when we do get a Control City, we can see that is now Wexford, and I don't know where the heck that is, and I live in this state. So, again, maybe just sign Zelianople. Here is the turn to Interstate 279, and as we saw in Southbound Part 1, is getting signed for Erie and Pittsburgh. Although, when we get a Control City, it is just Westview. So, again, I don't know why they don't go with Zelianople. Here is where that bypass 19 on Google Maps merges back in with us, and we get a reassurance shield of North 19 to Interstate 76 and 79 straight ahead. So that is useful information. Here is our interchange for the Pennsylvania Turnpike as it gets signed for Youngstown and Harrisburg. I think those are good choices with that. And now we are signed for Cranberry. And that is Cranberry Township and not an actual proper town named Cranberry. So again, I don't know why you don't just go with Zelianople. Although here we have a turn to get to 79 North, correctly signed for Erie, and now we finally get our Zelianople. So, about time. Here is the very first mileage sign, as far as I know, in the entire state of Pennsylvania when we are well past Pittsburgh, and there should have been a few more of those like in the southern part, but either way, here is our first mileage sign in Pennsylvania, and we're getting Portersville on the top line at 9 miles away, and Mercer is our bottom line at 32 miles away. So, yeah, I mean, 80 shouldn't be signed for Mercer. A lot of roads probably should be signed for Mercer, but like, here's the thing. Mercer is kind of a big town relative to like other places that 19 goes, and we meet a whole bunch of roads there, so like, I don't know, I'd say it's worthy to be signed. Here we are meeting US 422 once again is getting signed west for Newcastle, and I believe eastbound is getting signed for Butler, although we cannot see it on the sign, and we continue to get signed for Mercer. And it continues to hold up on the bottom line at our next mileage sign. We are only 19 miles away from it now, which matches up with our route number, so that's kind of cool. And here in Mercer, once again, we meet up with a whole bunch of highways, and left turn, US 62 and PA 258 are getting signed for Sharon, and the other way is getting signed for Grove City. PA 58 and 258. I believe we are concurrent with North US 62 and West 58. Here is where westbound PA 58 splits off as we continue to remain concurrent with US 62, and we get a 279 shield, as well as the control cities of Franklin and Meadville. Franklin for US 62, and we are getting signed for Meadville, so that is pretty cool. Here is where US 62 splits off to Interstate 79, and we get the same control cities once again. Here is our next mileage sign with Shigleyville on the top line at 15 miles away, and Meadville is 32 miles away on the bottom line. And I love to see that there because of our junction with US 6 and 322. Although on the next mileage sign we see Meadville is on the top line, and on the bottom line we get Erie at 54 miles away. Wow! That is awesome, and certainly a rare PAW. I really like this mileage sign. That is cool that we get Erie from this far away. And that continues to hold up at this mileage sign too, where Meadville is now only 8 miles away, and Erie is still on the bottom line at 47 miles away. So that is really cool. Here at this roundabout that we have seen in the US 322 videos, we're meeting up with it as well as US 6, as westbound 6 and 322 get signed for Conneaut Lake as opposed to Cleveland, and our 3 highway concurrency of 619 and 322 is getting signed for Meadville, so that is correct. Normally, this is the point where I would just cut to the point where 322 leaves the concurrency of 6 and 19, but I just could not go without putting this picture one more time, because this scenery right here is absolutely amazing. What a wonderful view, and of course we also got 79's fantastic control cities at this point of Erie and Pittsburgh. I just could not go this video without mentioning this. It is too iconic to pass up, and I just had to include it. So, here on this bridge, I actually meant to show this in 322 eastbound, but because of the stupid editing software I was using back then, the video froze and you couldn't see this. But anyway, in 1200 feet, US 322 is splitting off and getting the Kentucky treatment of Park Avenue as opposed to getting signed for Franklin, and 6 East and 19 North get no control city. So that is pretty lame. After 322 has split off, we get these reassurance shields of just US 6 and 19. So, pretty interesting. And we get one of these lists of Meadville exits, which are not actually exits, they are just at grade intersections with streets in Meadville. So, that headline there is a bit misleading. Here we have to turn left to stay on US 6 and 19 as we get this weird, like just straight up like regular mileage sign that doesn't have arrows on it, and we get the control cities of Erie and Corey. So in theory, Corey is the primary for this concurrency. I don't really like that. I think some other place, like closer to here on 6, should maybe be a secondary, and then Erie would be our primary. After we make that turn, we get another sign, which is basically just the same as the one we saw before, Although this is now our proper mileage sign. So really weird stuff that they're doing right here. And again, I'm not sure if I like seeing Corey on that bottom line as opposed to Erie. But here is where US 6 splits off. It is getting signed for Corey, which is fine for that route, I suppose. But again, like one more time, I'm really not sure that I like it being the primary of our courtesy. But either way, now we are splitting off and getting signed for Erie in 18 miles, which is absolutely correct. And then we get this mileage sign with Waterford on the top line, 4 miles away, and Erie is still our bottom line. However, at this roundabout with Pennsylvania 97, where we become concurrent with Pennsylvania 97 for a bit, now Waterford becomes our primary in theory because it is getting listed as the only city, and I don't really like that at all. Should say Waterford and Erie to represent the fact that we're going to Erie. But either way, after we split off of Pennsylvania 97, we get this one-line mileage sign, which only has Erie at 14 miles away, and that is fantastic. Here we are meeting Interstate 90 as it gets its awesome control cities of Cleveland and Buffalo. The only interstate that PennDOT actually gets right all the time, because it goes through a very short portion of Pennsylvania. And at long last, here we are coming up to the junction of US 20, and we are ending US 19. Although we get an N US 19 Acorn shield, and I don't really like that at all. But I mean, we got an N shield on both ends of this massive route, so that still kind of makes me happy in a way. So with all that said, let's move on now to quarter launch 437s the way it should be for all of US 19 northbound. So, to try and keep this as short as possible, I'm not really going to give reasonings for any of this stuff, except if I feel it's necessary. So, once again, we're just kind of going to go through this, and here it is. So, to start, it should be St. Petersburg, then Clearwater, then Spring Hill, Crystal River, and then after that, I believe it should be Gainesville until the split with Alt US 27, and then Tallahassee until US 27 regular splits off from the concurrency, and then Thomasville, Albany, Americus, Thomaston, Griffin, Atlanta, Cumming, Dahlonega, Murphy, Asheville, Cherokee, after 19 has split off of US 74, then Asheville again, Johnson City until US 19 splits off of future Interstate 26, then Spruce Pine, Elizabethton, Bristol, Abingdon, Lebanon, and then I like the idea of signing Roanoke for favoring 460, so then Roanoke until 460 splits off. And then Bluefield, West Virginia, put the WV on there to distinguish it from Bluefield, Virginia. And then Princeton, Beckley, Oak Hill, Somersville, Weston, Clarksburg, Fairmont, Morgantown, Kirby. Wait. No, not Kirby. I think I got possessed by PennDOT there for a second. No, it should absolutely be Waynesburg and not Kirby. What the heck was up with that? But anyway, Waynesburg, then Washington, PA. Yes, put the PA on there because people might get confused with that Washington. And then Pittsburgh, Zelienople, Newcastle, Mercer, Meadville, and then Erie. Alright, I would like to take a minute and outline my plans for the first few videos after this series. And to start it off, I will be doing a video about US 220 alternate and business here in Pennsylvania. And then I will be doing my own version of Pennsylvania Route 26 because it is a very important road to me and I know quite a bit about it. And then after that, I will be doing a reboot of US 322 because my eastbound 322 video, the very first Control City video I did on this channel, was plagued by technical issues, and both of them have a lot of misinformation in them that I would like to clear up. So with all that said, this brings the US 19 Northbound supercut and my entire coverage of US 19 to a close. It's been 6 videos over the course of 4 months. It has been quite a journey, and I would like to thank you all so much one last time for watching all these US 19 videos, and until whatever comes next, have a good one. Peace. So, remember how I showed you guys that acorn shield at the very beginning of the US 19 series on Southbound Part 1? And then there was another acorn shield that we saw at the northern end of US 19? Well, there was another one, and 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 another one! There was like 9 million acorn shields on US 19. Oh my goodness gracious, Penda, why do you do this? Stop putting acorn shields everywhere. Do you hear me? Please just replace them all with normal looking ones. Ugh.